Today's show is brought to you by Milwaukee-based Spike Brewing, designer and manufacturer of premium quality home brewing equipment. Is your beer falling flat? Are you sick of setting up all that gear for a brew day and running out to buy propane? Frustrated by the weather dictating your brewing schedule? Take it inside and avoid the cold, wet winter with the turnkey electric system from Spike Brewing. Trusted by homebrewers and pros alike, the Spike system will change the way you brew and take your beer to new heights. And whether you're interested in a simple upgrade from a glass carboy to a stainless steel fermenter, or you're switching from propane to electric, Spike Brewing has the solution for you. Reach out today to spikebrewing.com/homebrew happy hour, and their team can help you figure out what you need to make the most of your brew day. Spike Brewing. Pursue what's possible.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
Hello and welcome to the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. If you have a question you would like us to discuss on a future episode, visit homebrewhappyhour.com and click on the submit a question link at the top of the page, or now you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. I am your host, Joshua Stubing. Today I'm joined by the Director of Operations at cmbecker.com, Mr. James Carlson, as well as the President and Chief Kegwasher of kegconnection.com, Mr. Todd Burns. And I didn't mute y'all today. Fellas, how are y'all doing?
Good. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Is that my... I don't think I'm the only one who this happens to, but today's only January the 2nd. When I woke up this morning, I didn't know what day of the week it was. Like, all of these holiday times, you know what I mean? Like, it's like the Christmas break. I just lose track of time. I knew it was a work day. Todd reminded me very early in the morning. I remember it was a work day, but I totally forgot, like, it's Thursday. Yesterday, I kind of woke up forgetting that it was New Year's Day and places were closed, and I was like, why are they closed? I was like, it's January 1st. It's a new year. I think this might be the closest to the new year we've done an episode. Before, we've either skipped it or New Year's Day was a different day of the week, so we had more days until publication time. But did y'all have, I'll start with you, Mr. Burns. How was your New Year's celebration? I know you had a bunch of people over. I happened to see a bunch. James and I were at your property on Monday, had a great time. But then Tuesday night for New Year's Eve, how'd it go?
So I had family over through the holidays. So I had my brother and his family staying for about 7 days. They left that morning. We had a whole nother group of people come in, some actually customers, vendors, friends, and some family. And then they left the next morning, and then I had a huge group of family in that evening, and they left all of us old people left about 9, and then my daughter had a huge get-together after that. So we have gotten some use out of the barn during the holidays.
Yeah, I know it's funny because we keep calling it the barn, and the inside joke has always been like, oh, the barn. But James, remember when people were coming over and we're like,
yeah. Y'all, when y'all think of the barn, it's nicer than my house.
Yeah, right. That's exactly what I say. His barn is way nicer than my. Yeah. I
don't know about that. I mean, it doesn't have. It's just a big open area with some little bedroom. It's not nicer than your house. I've been to your house.
It is. It's even got more bedrooms than my house.
It does have more bedrooms than my house. It's a four bedroom, 2 bath. Ours is a 3-2. Golly, Todd, you always have to one up me.
Mine's a 3-2, but I don't have the kick-ass stereo system, the big screen, the bar, the badass kitchen.
It is wonderful. I love it. Now the bedrooms, to put it in context, are like 4 foot by 8 foot, right? So it's true. It's almost like a little dormitory, but that's what everybody wanted. None of the people I talked to wanted like 2 big bedrooms, and then there'd be people in there in bunks. They wanted their own little cubby hole. So it's worked out really, really well.
Oh yeah,
I think
and don't forget, you got a badass brew system too with a glycol chiller conical.
That's my favorite part.
Ideal man cave.
Yeah,
I got 2 kegerators in there right now, but I got to get one of them out of there because we've consumed most of that beer we brewed for the Christmas season. So
it's funny. You've had that second one there for as long as you've been saying you need to take it out. Like last year,
I've had it there a little over a month.
No, oh wait, where did you take it back to the office at some point?
No, but it's been out in the garage and all this time. But I mean, I actually brought it into the barn for the day of the Christmas party.
That's right. I know what you're saying. Yeah, I could have sworn after last year's Christmas party, you kept saying like, "Oh, we gotta get this back up to the office," and then just it was in your garage, and then you're like,
you may be right. You want to bet $5 on it? Or?
I'm done betting with you. You know what? My resolution for 2020 is to not ever bet you again. It's going to be, the weight loss.
Oh, I don't know, James. I do remember bringing it back. Maybe.
Oh, shut up. People,
Yeah, maybe so.
Listen, I'm no stranger to making resolutions and failing them in the first week, and I am not doing that with you. It's at least going to be till February till I lose a bet.
I did a 3-hour and 30-minute hike with my cousin yesterday.
Dang, dude. Did y'all see any hogs?
We heard them at one point. We were packing. We were ready for hogs. You never see them when you're really, really ready for them. So
yeah, I
enjoyed it.
Yeah, I don't remember if we talked about the hog hunt on last week's episode. I'm sure we did. It's been kind of hazy since then. So, Christmas was great, and the New Year's was wonderful. We had the breakfast stout, of course, on tap, the Northern English brown ale, and I had a bunch of Frew still in the fridge because I didn't have any homebrew Kolsch, unfortunately. But we had a ton of Frew, or a ton. We had a sitzer of Frew, which no one else was drinking it at the New Year's Eve thing. So I had a good time, and I'm also decided, even though we are done, I've lost to you in the weight loss competition, and in the bigger picture, I don't have a reason to be healthy. I mean, look at me. I'm already aggressively mediocrely healthy, but yeah. I am I'm gonna do dry January like you've been doing in the past. I'm gonna see how that goes for me. I'm gonna go the whole month and not drink.
I'm gonna do semi-dry January.
That just sounds half-hearted, like the story of my life.
Semi-dry. It's like not a super dry wine, but it's semi-dry.
I know why. Because y'all are going to Germany at the end of the month.
I will be drinking alts when I'm in Dusseldorf at the end of the month. So yeah.
Can you imagine how terrible that would be to stick to a dry January type thing in Dusseldorf? I wouldn't have done it. I mean, I would have to go to AA meetings in order to accomplish that while I was there. There's no way y'all aren't going to go to the Altstadt and
nope.
have the time of your life. Yeah, that's at the end of the month, I believe, because I have a guest scheduled for that time period when y'all are gone. So I don't have to do every time y'all go out of town, I put you on the spot and I'm like, why don't we do an episode for when you're out of town and we'll call you in? And
it never happens.
Well, it never happens, one, because y'all are legitimately busy. Like when y'all go on those.
Yeah, we're busy, man. We're working all day and having meetings and
Todd,
time difference.
We're staying right across. So we couldn't get the normal hotel we're staying in. So I was like, I'm going to go on Airbnb or VR or whatever the other one is, and see if I can find something. I found this place. We're staying there 2 nights. It is across the street, which I don't even think they drive traffic down that road. I think it's part of the section off area. It's across the street from an alt place. So I figured we'd hit all the different alt places and they go there last, and we can just crawl to our apartment.
I hate y'all.
We could just crawl across the street at the end of the night.
I hate y'all so much.
I'm gonna buy you some of those tins.
Oh no, I didn't. When I said you, I really meant Todd, who's right there. I really meant Todd. I didn't mean you, James. Come on.
That's not very nice at all.
James had committed to bringing me back Schlussel, which he brought your keg of Schlussel up to the Monday night gathering that we had at your barn. And I was like, oh, I'm opening it. I'm opening it. But I was so intoxicated by the breakfast stout, and then we switched over to whiskey drinks that I totally forgot to open it. So it's still just sitting there. But you know what? There's going to be a time this month where I'm up there by my... No, wait. Dry January. Son of a gun.
Dry January, baby. Dry
There
January.
you go.
Oh my God! I just shot myself in the foot.
You again.
Oh, I think you talked me into doing Dry January too. You know, Josh, I do it every year. I would, but I'm going to Dusseldorf. I'll do some of it if you want to do it. And I'm not, and I'm going to commit to it because I'm sick in the head, and I said I'm going to do it. But I also said I was going to beat you, and that didn't happen. So that's frustrating. I hope y'all both had good New Year's. We did a lot of questions in about like New Year resolutions for brewing and predictions of the craft beer world. Last year we did the New Year brew resolutions. I'd have to pull up that episode. I think one of mine was like get a conical. Didn't do that, but the other ones were good. Like dialing in a recipe was one of mine. I remember. I say dialing in a recipe. We dialed in James Kolsch recipe on our cooler brew system, and we're pretty consistent. Like I know what to expect from it. That's a big step for me in my brewing. I think for 2020, what I'd like to do is better fermentation equipment. I think this will be the year that I get that Spike conical fermenter for my dad and I. It's just going to be deciding on whether we get the glycol or if my dad wants to just do the walk-in with that little extra space in his game room. But I think that's my new year brew resolution. James, do you have any goals or resolution for brewing?
Well, I would like to just try to do more different styles of beer styles. Todd's been has been encouraged us to try all the recipes on the websites. I'd like to do that, but I've got another New Year's resolution that I'm going to do, and Todd and I are going to get his Jeep done. That's my big one.
I like that resolution.
Yep. And I'm dead serious about it too.
Favorite one.
Because it's been overdue. It should have been done 2 years ago, and it's not. So
I like that resolution.
Has it been 2 years that y'all started working on it? No, it has not. It's been that long?
Yeah, we got that when we moved the company. We went to Albuquerque in 2016, wasn't it?
Yep.
And we went and picked it up. So it's been over 3 years.
Well, I like that. And of course, Todd likes that one. Mine has nothing to do with you, Todd. Mine are very selfish and self-serving. But what are your resolutions?
So also, James, I wanted to mention, you got me that brake kit for the other one. I was going down to the chicken coop yesterday to work on the chicken coop. And you know how I was pushing in on it and it would just go to the floor. Yeah, I got it all bled and everything's right now. It's completely solid. I can push as hard as I want and it won't stop, which was a little hairy going down the hill. But luckily, I'd never taken it out of first gear. But I pulled into the garage and I actually hit something in the garage because I couldn't stop it at all. But what that is, that's kind of weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
It must have gotten some air in it, I think.
Well, if it's solid and it's not moving at all, we've either got an obstruction or we've got one or more wheel cylinders locked up. Yeah, we're going to be replacing the whole thing anyway. So I got to get that stuff ordered too.
So my resolution is the same as James's. I want to brew more styles of beer.
That's always yours. I mean, you've always
but
had.
We really haven't. If you think about it, we've had our little circle of styles that's all we do. And I'm going to go outside the box and do a Belgian ale and.
What do you have in there right now? You just brewed a beer, and I cannot for the life of me.
It was a fat tire clone from.
Fat tire clone. That's right. Yeah, and you said it kind of tastes like an alt in a way.
It does. Yeah, if you took if you change the hops on it, you'd have an alt.
Wait, Todd, did you not try it? Have you not tried it yet?
No, because I wasn't done. I didn't think. But listen, I don't think we can say we're brewing new styles of beer and just brew an alt and act like it's a new style.
Yeah, there you go. Mix it up. That's a great idea.
Hey, James, try my IPA that has a lot less hops in it, and it's actually a Kolsch.
It's got some German malts.
Yeah, there you go.
That's hilarious. The one more thing before we get into the questions, we had a handful of listeners ask us for our predictions for craft beer, just because like every year, is this the year of the lager or is triple IPA is going to be the new thing or whatever. My prediction's not necessarily what's going to be the big thing, but I think after I read a really cool article on good beer hunting. It was like 5 days ago or 3 days ago. it was the big ABV scandal from 450 North about like they had these slushy, these just basically fruit slush beers. And
I guess I hadn't heard about that.
So last year, or it was last year, 2 years ago, the scandal was these fruit beers, because they have so much fruit in the can, they're starting up fermentation again, and they're blowing up. Like people were having cans explode on them.
Yeah, I saw that article. That was one brewery in particular, right?
450 North, I think, was the one in question for both. Now the newest thing with 450 North is they had their ABV so wrong. Like they were putting like
I saw that article too.
They were putting like 8% on their slushy beers, but they were actually like 2.8%. And
that's bad. If you go that direction, it's not good.
Yeah, and so other brewers were like, "How did you not think that all the sugars from the fruits, or whatever, would dilute your ABV, in the can or in secondary or whatever in the process of fermentation?" And they put out a big apology, like, "Oh, we're sorry for this accident, and we're going to do more." So what they did, they just took off the ABV from the can. But my prediction, where I'm going with this is, I think we may be seeing, fingers crossed, sorry for all the listeners who I'm about to lose all your interest and you hate me now. I think we're going to see the end of this whole, like, just stuff a crap ton of fruit into the thing and ship it out. And I've not found like a fruit puree beer that I really like, and I think maybe it might be the end of that era with all this kind of controversy, because I think people, maybe this is a little bold. I think the people who are like, those are my favorite, are the hipsters. Like they're saying it because they know it's not good. I mean, I'm one who says, "Oh, everything's subjective. What you like is what you like. Drink it, whatever." But those beers, I'm sorry, guys, I think they're objectively silly. But I
can honestly say I don't think I've ever had one.
You weren't. I was just saying, you weren't with us in Portland when Joe and I went to. Oh, is it Great Notion? I forget the name of the place where, like sours and milkshake type beers were their thing. And they weren't I couldn't drink it all night. It's just like, it's a lot of sugar to have all in one night. So I couldn't drink them over and over.
So is it like really, really sweet? I mean, like grandma's Kool-Aid? I mean, that kind of.
Absolutely. That couldn't have said it better. Absolutely.
Stupid ass ball. I hate it.
Whoa, Todd! We don't want that angle. What the hell? Did you pop my exercise ball?
Oh, it's just my back's hurting sitting on this stupid thing. I hate it.
Hey, well, you know what? You will be happy to know mine in my office here. I'm in a peasant's chair because my bouncy ball broke. I hate you. And
what are you saying? I can't understand.
Put the mic up to your mouth, you idiot. Wait, you have your headphones on. You heard that. I am sorry, boss.
Now I got to lean down every time I talk.
Oh, Lord. I broke my bouncy ball in my office, so I'm going to take that one from my headquarter office and just put a normal chair in there for you.
It may have a leak.
Mine had a slow leak, and I was sitting on it. And James, remember that episode of The Office where?
Yeah, I was going to say, did your mom pull a Jim?
Yeah, no, just the universe.
That's funny.
The universe pulled one on me. I was sitting there, and I'm bouncing like I always do, and then, it was.
If you don't put a chair in here and get rid of this ball by the next episode, it's going to accidentally explode from a knife being plunged into it. How about that?
Okay, deal. I'll get it out of there. You'll be happy. All right, James, do you have any predictions for craft beer? Do you think this is the year where German styles take over and everyone?
I think so. I think that we're going to see a lot of different, like Marzens. I think a Marzen is going to be a bigger deal next year. All this is wishful thinking on my part, but different types of pilsners. I think people are going to develop different styles of pilsners. But I'm like a old school beer guy, so I think that hopefully they won't run them with a bunch of fruit and hops, but get it balanced. I think probably we'll see more balanced traditional style lagers this year. Will be the year of the lagers.
Todd, what about you, my friend?
I think IPAs, juicy IPAs, are going to really, really come forward this year.
You know what, though? That's been a safe bet for like the last 6 years, right?
That's why I said it. I'm trying to be right for once.
Yeah. No, for once. Shut up. My wallet would say otherwise, my friend. Besides the $100,
we could bet $5 on it.
On what, that juicy IPAs?
IPAs are going to be really popular this
No, they
year.
will be. Of course they will be. That's what I love on Reddit and the subreddit it's called /the brewery. these guys, all their memes, James, are like what I want to brew, and it's always some like just basic lager. What I want to brew, but what I have to brew, and it's like a double IPA. I mean, it's funny because even brewers in a microbrewery context of the sample, whatever the sample size Reddit is considered, those guys are like you and us, where it's like I want to drink a simple beer and enjoy it all day, not too boozy. And just have balance. And but that's not what sells.
Balanced session beer is what everybody. I think that's the. They're so hard to brew. They really are. And have a balanced. For me, and I don't know about everybody else. We're all doing our own recipes now, but getting that right hop balance between bitterness and then the aromatics and everything after the boil, you can do fairly easy. But the correct amount of bittering hops, it's that razor's edge for me. Of going too much and maybe not enough, then you get too much body and sweetness. It's a difficult thing.
Yeah, I agree. And that in the one of the articles, I don't remember if it was the Good Beer Hunting or one of the many other ones that or maybe it was Brewbound's article about this whole controversy with all the fruit. But basically, the gist was like, yeah, maybe people are starting to think they're only putting all that fruit in because their base beer's not that great. And I'm not saying it isn't. I've never had it. I'm sure they're nice people, not dogging on them. It's just, man, like if it
kind of sounds like you are, though.
Maybe a little bit. Maybe I did. You're right. You're right. I tend to do that. I'll say something terrible and then I'll end it with like, but I mean good, It's
bless their heart.
It's the bless their heart. Thank you. Thank you, stereotypical Southern man. When we had that visitor from Australia that we were talking to on Monday, and we were talking about accents, and James was like, I forget how the Australian guy brought it up, but James was like, you think I don't hear about my accent ever?
Yeah. Every trade show.
Yeah. That Australian guy was like, yeah, people, I can't even do an Australian accent. He was a terribly nice guy, and we have a huge audience in Australia that we love, and our thoughts and prayers, sidetracking real quick, are with y'all. Poor Australia is on fire. I really hope the best for you guys because it looks terrifying. I have a friend in I forget where Madeline's at, but the fire is affecting them terribly. It's a huge continent country, but what did he say there was, like 25 million people?
25 million.
And it's not that many big cities there, and these are affecting people in the brush, and it's getting scary there. So we hope all y'all are doing okay down there. And if I would like to say if there's anything we can do, but what I don't know what we can do besides hopefully entertain you for this half-hour podcast. But I think Todd has the safest prediction. I think mine is to get the most hate mail, and I think James was just wishful thinking. So,
yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So I did bring two questions for today's episode. We'll start with the first one from our friend and longtime listener, Chris B. He used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Chris wrote in, "Hey crew, I have a question about regulators. Is it possible to test or validate the accuracy of the pressure gauge? I have a dual regulator with two kegs identically set up side by side. I set and serve them both at 12 psi. One pours perfect while the other pours foam. When I vent the pressure and pour without pressure, the foamy one will then pour decently. My thought is the one regulator's gauge may be off. Chris." Todd, when I fielded these questions, I know you didn't read the show notes. I'm okay with that. But James did, and he was like, these are questions for Todd. So we're going to throw this question to you. What are your thoughts on the accuracy of a pressure gauge and determining its validity?
So he has two separate, not a dual body. He has two separate regulators on these.
That's what. Yes, that's what
okay.
He has. He has.
It doesn't matter. Even if it was a dual body, it doesn't matter. It's two separate bodies with different pressures. One's foaming, one's not. Well, I mean, first and foremost, this happens all the time, and most of the time it happens to us. It happened to us on two of the beers for the Christmas party. I would say the vast majority of the time, one of the beers is overcarbonated or there's some other issue in the system, but that doesn't mean that he couldn't have a gauge that's off. The best way to be able to tell, I think, would be to take take one side and take it up to whatever PSI you want. Let's say it's 12. And then once you've got that up to 12, hook the other side on and first see if you start to hear air going back in again. And that would tell you that one side is reading lower than the other. And then take the pressure off and do that in reverse and see if one of them is reading different than the other. There's really no way to check the gauge easily. I mean, you can obviously check the gauge by taking it off and putting it on something that you know is right and then testing it that way. But I don't know how else you could test it except just kind of swapping around and seeing if one's delivering more pressure than the other when they're set at the same PSI. That would probably be the easiest way in the field to try to do that. Unless, James, can you think of any other way to do that?
No, I'm with you on that. I think that the first thing I would do is switch kegs and see if you can get a difference. Bleed them back off, switch them around, and see if you get if the same thing happens on the other keg, then you know that you've got a different issue.
My guess would be that this is what happened on ours with the we had two beers. One was the Christmas beer. The other one was kind of a milk stout that somebody made. It was okay. And the milk, you don't even hear that, Josh.
Oh no, because I'm trying to. I'm looking at notes or whatever. And also, no, I heard you. When you said milk stout, you meant breakfast stout.
Breakfast stout, sorry.
Yeah, so that's why I didn't
respond. I tried to insult you, and I messed it up.
That's why I didn't respond, because at first I thought maybe he's senile and he meant breakfast stout.
So but it's a really good beer. Both of these beers are excellent, and both of these beers are right next to each other, and they're actually on the same. They're on the same regulator because we just have an air distributor. One's foaming a lot, and the other one, if anything, it's not flowing very well. Like I noticed when I was having some night before last, I could turn it all the way up and it's barely coming out. Well, there's an issue. It's probably got a little bit of stuff down below that's clogging it up, that's gotten stuck in the dip tube. Not enough. It still will fill a beer up. So, lazy Todd won't go and fix it if it's still flowing. So I just wait another 30 seconds to fill the glass up. And then the other one, you have to mess with the flow control like crazy to get it to pour a good beer. James, you remember that at the party. Yeah. You were helping people pour beer on it. Yeah, it's just over carbonated. So there's so many variables. It's hard. It could just be that your beer somehow got a little over carbonated, and that's why one's foaming and one's not.
And one thing he was saying, they were both set on 12. So if he thinks he's led to believe that the other one is actually higher, that could cause the overcarbonation issue as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, your video, and it is applicable here, so I bring it up. Your video on managing foam on a home draft system is a good troubleshooting guide. It's getting a ton of views now because I think people, I see it on Homebrew Talk, I see it on Reddit, and so I'm assuming they also go to YouTube and just type in how to handle the damn foam on my, tap or whatever, and this video pops up that you did. But you go through the steps of like, hey, here's what's most common. And if it's not, A, B, or C, here's what's probably not it, but worth mentioning just because it could be.
That would help to go through that. I agree. One other thing I want to mention, regulators, diaphragm regulators like we use for beer, they have a plus or minus on the best one that you can buy in the industry. The plus or minus is about 2%, 2 PSI. So you're going to always get some variance. It's just not, to not get any variance at all, you'd have to spend a lot more money to build a regulator that wouldn't have any variance, including the gauge. The gauge is going to have a little variance too.
Yeah, it's going to be very expensive. I also thought it'd be worth mentioning for this episode, he didn't ask about the accuracy of the capacity gauge, but I always remember you telling me if you're using a 5-pound, I don't even know if 10-pound is enough to give any more of a reading on your capacity than, hey, you still have some gas, or no, you don't. Like the actual place of the needle is kind of just not necessary because all it is telling you, yeah, you have gas still, or no, you don't.
The reason for that specifically is because CO2 is a liquid. Just like propane. That's the reason propane tanks don't have gauges on them. Same thing, on your grill, if you've ever wondered. So the CO2 is a liquid, so it basically releases gas at the same pressure until it runs out of liquid, and then the gauge starts to go down. So when your gauge starts to go down significantly, that's because you're out of liquid and you're about to run out of gas.
Right.
The other thing too, along that same line, is PSI. I forgot what I was going to say. Never mind.
Oh, I love that. No, let's harp on this. What were you going to say?
I do that all the time.
I know. Let's see. I'll think of it in a
My
second.
goal. Oh, my new resolution now is to make more old jokes in 2020 at your expense. I can't. The fat jokes aren't funny anymore. You're losing too much weight. The old senile jokes, they're coming, my friend. Oh, I can't wait. But yeah,
I'll be fat and senile before you know it. Don't worry.
Oh, I will too. We go in cycles. Todd's seen Fat Josh come and go. He'll be back. It's no big deal. Chris, thank you so much for writing in. Yeah, watch that video that Todd did. I'll put a link to it in the show notes, or you can just go to youtube.com/homebrew happy hour. Subscribe to us if you're listening and you don't subscribe already. But we have a lot of how-to videos there, as well as at homebrewhappyhour.com. But if you don't want to go to the website proper, you can always find our stuff on YouTube as well. But anyways, we have one more question, also kind of about regulators. It's from Suzanne L. She also used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Suzanne wrote, "Hello, guys. Joshua, you need to be nicer to Todd. Sometimes it seems..."
A good example just happened.
No. Sometimes it seems like you don't remember that he is your boss. If you win your contest, you need to take him to dinner and just be nicer to him. I didn't win. He bamboozled me, and he spent my $100 on kids being mean to me. That was how he spent the money. He gave these kids money to be mean to me. I don't need to.
It was only $15 of it. It wasn't the whole thing.
You have $85 to do more damage. I love it.
Yeah.
Anyway, Suzanne continues, "I do have a question, thank God, and it is about using multiple gas regulators. My husband and I have a 5-pound tank that has a regulator attached to it that connects directly to our soda tank's input. We want to add more soda tanks to our system next year, but we don't know if we should get multiple regulators and gas tanks for this, or if there is a better solution. We are longtime listeners of your show and usually listen while we brew, which makes for an entertaining experience. So thank you, Suzanne." I like this question in that there are so many different ways you can approach it. I think we've talked about this way long ago, a little bit. I'm a fan of implementing secondaries because secondaries give you the ability to adjust pressure on the individual line. You can run all of your secondaries off of your same 5-pound CO2 cylinder. They're easy to set up. They have most of them that we sell. The Taprite ones have little mounting brackets. So if you have a keys or build, you can easily mount them. It makes life pretty darn easy. And on the other hand, there are people who prefer the how many bodies can I stack onto one stem hanging off of a CO2 cylinder. Todd, what is the approach you would take for someone like Suzanne in her situation?
Well, first, let me clarify one thing. When she says soda tanks, that may confuse some people. That means like corny kegs, beer kegs that we use in the homebrew industry. So I'm assuming she's talking about beer, although it doesn't matter. You could obviously use it for soda as well. But the reason I bring that up is if you do happen to use some for soda and some for beer, that's where a secondary really shines, because you need to really pump up that pressure. You need a good CM Becker flow control faucet for that soda side for sure, because that's what they were originally made for. And then you need the ability to have such a huge pressure difference. I always prefer, they're both, I shouldn't say they're both secondaries. I always prefer to have a main body and then secondary bodies inside, because for one thing, I think it's a lot safer to do it that way, because you do your initial pressure regulation on the primary, you drop it down to say 30, 40 PSI, depending on maybe a little higher if you're doing soda. And then you take the secondaries inside and drop them further down to where you need them for beer. And so as you're going between the regulator and the CO2 tank to the secondaries, I think it's a lot safer, especially in a house working with that low pressure. The other way to do it, obviously, is to use a high-pressure hose. Now, when you put 3 or 4 regulators on a nipple and you put that on a CO2, you got to be super careful with that, because if you knock that over and it hits the ground, one of those regulators is almost certainly going to bend and break the nipple, and you're going to have a missile that's got a valve on the side of it, so it's going to sling around like one of those fireworks that you used to buy. What are those? Exactly. The jumping jacks?
Jumping jack. Yep.
It's going to be like a super powerful jumping jack that's doing that across your whole brew room and taking people out along the way, probably. So I think it's a lot better to have secondary bodies coming off of a low-pressure hose.
James, on your home setup, I forget how many taps you have now. You got 4?
I've got 3, but I have them all tied to one primary. So I've got a manifold. So it comes off my primary into the kegerator, and then I have a manifold with 4 different valves. I got 1 to force and 3 for the other taps.
And you know what? That's a good time to say that if Suzanne doesn't need multiple regulators, she could always just go the way of a manifold and then use the same existing one that she has. That's a very common right now on our current setup at my pop's house, because I moved my kegerator over there. We have one cylinder, 1 5-pound cylinder with a dual body. We have 2 now. We have 2 cylinders with dual bodies, because we are both using one of the bodies to manage the pressure for dispensing, and then the other body was just kind of dedicated to forced carbonation.
Right.
But once you get inside the fridge from that one body, it goes to a 2-way manifold. That's a super easy and affordable way to disperse one pressure however many times you need to go. Yep. I don't know, Todd, is there a rule of thumb? Is there a number of outputs on a manifold before you start losing efficiency of the set PSI? If that makes, I don't know if I'm wording that.
I'm sure there is, but it would never. I would say it would never affect you in a homebrew system, because I've seen them in commercial brew rooms where there's 10 of them on there and it doesn't seem to affect it. On a homebrew system, you're not pouring 10 taps at one time. You're pouring 1. So you're not going to have any drop. You're not going to have any issue. Typically, the person that needs multiple bodies is somebody that brews either soda and beer at the same time. We talked about that, but also maybe they're doing a saison and they want that at 16 psi, and then they have a porter and they want that at 8 psi. The people that are really particular about this stuff tend to have an engineering degree. So engineering alert, if you're an engineer, you probably want multiple bodies.
If you had your glasses on, you're about to push them up your nose. Engineering
Plus,
alert.
if you put another thing to think about too, is if you've got too many outlets or too big of a manifold on, and you're dispensing a lot of beer through that manifold, it can cause the primary to freeze up. And so you might have to split the duty between 2 primaries.
Oh, that's a great point. We actually talked about that in your video about how to replace the bonnet, right? On the tap right regulator.
It happens a lot where it's really going to happen too is forced carbonating. You got to really watch it when you're forced carbonating.
Yeah. So Suzanne, I think just from the context, Todd, that you're right. Soda tank is kind of an I've seen them online called that, because that's what they were. They were soda
syrup tanks, yeah.
Right. So, but she talks about listening to our show while they brew. I can't imagine they mean brewing soda, so they're probably doing beer. That quick, like, how long does it take to make soda? Shaking it up, and okay, that's about as long as they can handle our podcast. It was entertaining.
No mash out on soda, or
a lot of people tell me that, we love listening while we brew, and I was like, really? You like us? I'm like with Todd, where I still can't get over like that people listen, but much less like make it a part of their brew day. But I do appreciate it. It's very humbling. But yes, Suzanne, if you need multiple pressures, if you are doing even different styles at different pressures, not just the forced carbonate and whatnot, secondaries are a very reasonably affordable way. I think Taprite secondaries start at like $50 or plus or minus, whatever. Those are kind of the industry standard right now. They're high quality. Todd, I don't want to speak out of turn. The secondaries are also under that 2-year warranty, right? With Keg Connection?
Absolutely. Yeah. They have the extended. So the Taprite warranty is 1 year, but we extend it to 2 years.
Right. And that goes for secondaries as well. That's what I was clarifying.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think it's a win-win if you need them. I think you'd find, especially if you have a keezer build and you have the space to mount them, I think you'd find that's your easiest bet. They're very easy to use. Even I know how. They're simple to implement, and they are super durable. And like I said, they're backed, so you could buy in confidence. A lot of times people, the regulator specifically is always an interesting realm to me, guys, because there's a lot of imports from a particularly overpopulated Eastern country that is kind of taking all of our ideas and re-putting them into the market at lower prices. I don't know what country, if I'm getting the point across enough to you, James.
I know.
But there's a lot, and one of the things that we get feedback on is like, oh, y'all have no, it's worth spending the extra $8 for this one because I know I'm going to get support. I had this regulator. It failed on me. It was from this country I was talking about, and they don't support it. They're just like, sorry, what do you want? You paid for it, dummy. Like, I think there's some value to having high quality and supported things. So go look at your favorite local homebrew supply shop probably carries Taprite. They're very popular. Go look at their secondaries if that's the solution you need. Look into manifolds. That's a very viable solution as well. Or write in and just let us know specifically what you're going to be doing. And I will forward it to Todd, and I promise you, he will take the time to answer your question thoroughly and point you in the right direction. He actually, I laughed only because I know how many people I send his way, but he genuinely likes doing that. So anyone listening, if you have a question, you can write it into Joshua@homebrewhappyhour.com. And if it's a logistical one that's maybe not appropriate for the show because it would take too long, but you want an answer, Todd lives for that. I'm not throwing him under the bus. He genuinely lives for that. So write him in. We'd love to have you. We'd love to help you, rather. But guys,
I have a confession before you end the show. The reason I do a 2-year warranty on Taprite regulators is that they don't break. So, they do. Everything breaks, but it's so rare, and we get so few back that it's very easy to do a 2-year warranty. And quite frankly, if one broke before, we were fixing them anyway, so we might as well toot our own horn and say we do an extended warranty on them because they're just very bulletproof. It's a really good product. So
I agree. They are. And like you said, it was mutually beneficial because it's like, not that many people have to return it. So we need to offer this and toot our own horn. Toot. All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for your time. That wraps up today's show. We did both questions. Again, Happy New Year. I'm going to be up there again at the end. Is it? I forget. No, this is the end of the week. I told y'all I'm stupid. I forget what day it is. It's Thursday already. I'm going to be up again next week. And then I'll also be up the week after that because we'll have another vendor coming through. So y'all are going to be seeing a lot of me in early 2020 and then hightailing it out to Germany like as soon as I leave town the second time. But thank y'all for your time, and I look forward to seeing y'all soon.
Thanks.
See ya.
I love it. And that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on the submit a question link at the top of the page, or now you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. Thank you to our show sponsor, Spike Brewing Equipment, for supporting us and the home brewing community. Learn more about their incredible equipment at spikebrewing.com/homebrew happy hour and make the most of your brew day. On behalf of Todd Burns, James Carlson, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Stubing. Thank you for listening.
This program is made possible by the checkbook of Mr. Todd Burns and by contributions to our newly launched Patreon by viewers like you. Visit patreon.com/homebrew happy hour and join our community. Thank you.